Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome to another edition of eHeroes. Now, today's eHero is phenomenal, and you guys have known that I'm a proficient writer, but this guest today just puts me in the dust, and I'm very honored to have Honoree Corder with us today, and we're going to talk about books. We're going to talk about writing, and we're going to talk about how you guys can put your thoughts to action and create hopefully your own book. So welcome and thanks for joining us.
I'm honored to be with you. Thank you so much for having me, and good morning.
You know, back in 2012, I was debating on writing my own book, and I had taken a lot of my blog posts that I had written over a course of a couple of years, and I printed them out, and I had a stack of thoughts that I was going to put together. And I took this big box and I said, we're going to the mountains. I'm going to sift through all this stuff and see what I can do. And after about 6 hours of sifting through, I said, this is garbage. And I threw it all away.
Oh gosh.
And then I flew out to Arizona, and on the plane trip back, I had the concept of, you know what, you like social media. Why don't you just write a book about ways people can, use social media? And it became the easiest social media book that anybody can read. And it took me just a few hours to write.
Love it.
And, people were like, wow, this is phenomenal. But it was getting to that first, trying to transition out of forcing myself to write a book and just write the book.
Ah, yes.
So
downshifting into fourth gear.
Yeah. So how did you get started?
I met Mark Victor Hansen at a conference, and he asked me what I did, and I told him I was a coach and a speaker, and I did a little hair flip, and I was very proud of myself. And he said, yeah, everybody's a coach and a speaker, honey. You must write a book. And I was like, well, gosh, gee, Mark, thanks, buddy. And how hard could that be? Right? Thinking what everyone I think perceives writing a book is like. If you have not written one, it is when you said you were going to the mountain, I thought you meant I'm going to the book writing mountain, right? I'm going to try to scale the mountain writing this book. But I asked him a few more questions, and he gave me some solid advice, and I decided to take it. Mm-hmm. And that's how I first started, is I just sat down. He said, if you have a speech that you've given that people like, take that speech and turn it into a book. Mm-hmm. And I took that advice literally and sat down and just typed as though I were giving that 45-minute speech. I'm not sure why it took me 3 days, but nevertheless, apparently I talk much faster than I type. And that was the beginning. That was my very first version of my very first book. Mm-hmm. And I am so glad that I did that. And I think that what you're getting at, there's the asked question and the unasked question, right? Is like, how do you turn the key, right? First, you have to be wanting to write it and say, I really feel like I need to write this. I'm convinced I need to write it. And that's where I start with my clients, right? Is like, well, how convinced are you that you are ready, willing, and able to write a book? Like, right. Where are you on the continuum? Have you decided that you actually need to write a book? Yes. Okay, great. And then it's just deciding that you're just going to do it, come hell or high water, that no matter what gets in your way, what blocks you come in front of, you're just going to put one foot in front of the other until you finish that first draft. Right. Yeah. It's the decision. It's like anything else, right? You got to decide.
And the funny thing is now, when I compare my first book to my 25th book.
Oh dear.
The funny thing is that I didn't want to recycle, those blogs into a new book.
Right.
But the last 2 books that I've written have all been recycled material, like Rob versus the Scammers. I would share out all this stuff on social media, and then I put it all into a book. And I did the same thing with Rob versus the Morons. And, and the funny thing is those 2 books have made me more money back end wise with coaching and speaking than all the books before that. And it was like, okay, people, writing sounds difficult, but if you take the content that you already have and position it into something that is tangible for someone to learn from, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yes. Yes. And when someone says I'm not a writer, I think, well, what makes a writer?
Yeah.
Right? It's like if you wrote an email, technically you're a writer. You can compose a sentence. And then I do my best to take out the things where they think they have to, or that there is an option for writing a perfect first draft, that you just sit down and you write this thing that's perfect and then you publish it. And that I dispel immediately by saying, I have a team of people and editors and proofreaders, and they turn whatever I give them into something that's readable and digestible in a pleasant way for the reader. That's the goal, right? Is to take our thoughts that are jumbled and disconnected and hopefully helpful and turn it into something that a reader can benefit from in whatever way, either entertainment or education.
Yeah. And, and had you been in my English class in high school, 30 plus years ago, you would have realized that I was the worst student ever. And you would never imagine me writing books. And people now come up to me and they'll say, well, Rob, you can't even spell. How do you write in books? Just,
Because we have a team of people who do some of the heavy lifting. Like there's the heavy lifting of actually writing the book, but then when you realize you have people you can rely on, that was helpful for me, is to meet people who were editors, word nerds, people who live for the process of taking language and turning it into prose.
Yeah. And
that's their job and they love it. Then it's like, oh great, so all I have to do is get this out of my head and on to the page, and then there's someone else to make the touchdown.
Yeah. And my second book, is all about search engine optimization, and I partnered with a gentleman up in Canada, and we were both former carpet cleaners who had businesses. We had sold them, and we were getting into this tech age, and we were teaching other people how to do this. And I said, no, I had this idea to write this SEO book. And he goes, yeah, so do I. So well, let's combine it and co-author this book. And we interviewed each other just, on video conferencing like this. And then I took everything, transcribed it, and then rewrote it. And it was a process that took from concept to creation to #1 bestseller in 4 countries. It took 60 days. And we rushed the book out. And, I don't recommend doing that anymore, only because it's just too many errors in the book. But
yes,
it was that same process now I've used over and over and over again.
I love it.
And it's just so much easier to interview somebody, because then it becomes their voice. It becomes
right. Yes.
And I think people forget that. They think that, you got to just sit down with a pen and paper and just start writing. And sometimes it's just easier to pick up a phone or record and then transcribe everything.
Yes. Transcribe it, have a conversation, dictate it, hire a ghostwriter, so many options available. There's really no barrier.
So how many books have you written so far?
I think 53.
Wow.
53 nonfiction. And so I'm out of words. I have no, sorry. I decided I have no more nonfiction that I want to write. So I've switched to fiction, which is, I'm in that same process of just deciding I'm going to do it and putting one foot in front of the other and get the darn draft out, and then turn it over to people who know what they're doing and see what they come back with. That's it.
Wow.
I've wanted to do it for a really long time, so I'm having a good time figuring it out and trusting the process. And it's put me back in school, right? In school for everything, school for tropes and beats and character building and setting and scene writing and all those wonderful things. And then there's the marketing piece of it. How similar is it to nonfiction? Where is the fork in the road when it comes to that? And how do I navigate that?
When most of my books were all about education, and I partnered with a doctor, and I wrote a couple of his weight loss books, and partnered with a lawyer and wrote his book. And when I decided to write Rob versus the Scammers and assemble all the stories that I would share on social media, it was completely different than what I've ever written. And it had nothing to do with, what I teach every single day. But it was the first book that got people to laugh. And I think because it got people to laugh, they remembered who I was and contacted me to do more work.
Oh, that's great.
And, it was, and so I continued that with the next book. And, I think people enjoy that 1 or 2 hour break from the day to read your book, to laugh, and to know that those experiences are what they're experiencing anyway. And it just connects you better.
Yes. I went to the gym this morning and was reading a book on the treadmill. Yeah, just power walking and reading this thriller, and it's great. It's the best. It's the best part of being an author, is that we have to read.
Yeah, and although
I have to do more reading.
I cannot stand reading books on Kindle. I just, maybe it's because I'm 51 years old, maybe because I had bifocals, but I need that physical book in my hand.
So I have my Kindle that this is my second Kindle. Actually, Amazon gave me a Kindle a few years ago. I had not ever had one. And it got me addicted because I am 49, so we are not far apart in age. So I too have the lenses with the different vision. And you could make the font super giant, which is amazing. Also, you have to turn the page every 12 words.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
No, I just find that I'm a speed reader as well, and I think it helps all readers or writers want to have the ability to speed read. But
yes,
I just find that this slows me down when I'm trying to read, and so
I don't like to read on my phone. I read on my phone under duress, but reading on the phone is also fantastic if you're stuck somewhere. Yeah. So when someone texts me and they say they're 15 minutes late, I'm like, sweet, because I'm always in the middle. Someone posted on Facebook this morning and said, what are you reading? And I have 4 books I'm in the middle of reading. So I never want for.
Now you have a whole sequence of what I call sequel books, a couple of them. And, I was never big into writing a sequel book until I started writing the Rob versus books. And, I find they're funnier every time I write a new one. And I
love it.
But, you have a whole series of sequel books, and some of them are on divorce. And I guess that was, very close to your heart.
Yes.
And,
turning lemons to lemonade, as they say.
But, was there one book that really made a difference in how people approach you?
Well, You Must Write a Book is, it's one of my best-selling books. It's one of my best earning books. And it's what you said, it's the differentiator. It really set me apart as someone who knew what they were talking about when it comes to guiding someone through the process. So I get a lot of professionals who read that book and then hire me in one form or another to help them through that process. So that's been, from a professional standpoint. From a personal satisfaction standpoint, when I wrote The Successful Single Mom. So my second book was The Successful Single Mom. And so I never thought anybody was going to read my books, Rob. So I was a little more open kimono in that book than I would have been if I thought more than maybe half a dozen people were going to read it. However, I learned a very valuable lesson. It's that when you are authentic and open in your writing, then people are attracted to that. They want to read the real stuff, right? They don't want the guarded story. They want the true and whole story. And it really taught me a lesson, because I just sat down and wrote without a filter, thinking that I would give it to an editor and they would go, oh, this is much too personal. You need to take this out. Don't talk about this, et cetera, et cetera. And I got the opposite feedback. And that one distinction has informed and influenced how I have written ever since then, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it helped me to find my voice, my writing voice.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, the letters that I get, the letters and the emails and the packages, I get people who send me copies of their book because they say your story helped me to write my story, and it's helped me to heal wounds and forgive and all sorts of things. So from a personal gratification perspective, the Successful Single Mom book and book series, so there's 6 in the series, that original book, that has sold lots of copies and has impacted lots of lives, and has been something where when I open my email in the morning, there's an email from someone who said, you know, I live in France.
Mm-hmm.
I was in an abusive relationship, and I had the courage after reading your book to leave and take my son and pursue my passions. And now I'm successful in this business. And I just wanted to say thank you. And that is, you know, as an author, there's no greater gift than that. No amount of book sales or
Right.
anything like that compares to finding out that your words impacted someone in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, and I think out of all my books, Lessons from the Dojo, which was my 3rd book, you know, it wasn't a big money maker, but it was the one I was most proud of.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I put a lot of lessons into there that can influence entrepreneurs, and not only entrepreneurs, but, you know, people in relationships, and it was 101 ways to, or 101 kick butt ways to improve your business life and relationships. And
That's
it
awesome.
was an easy book. It was only
Sure.
about 120 pages, and every page was a new lesson.
Yeah, I like it.
And but I think the one book that I helped a client with that I'm really proud of is the book I helped Tony Polici with, which was the copywriting, the Wise Guys Copywriting Handbook. You know, Tony was one of my original mentors back in 1998, and convinced me to get into marketing, and convinced me to, you know, when he worked with his brother Joe, you know,
I
to
did a book
start.
with Joe. Did
Yeah,
you know I did a book with Joe?
I did not. No, I did not
Yeah,
know.
we did the Miracle Morning for Addiction Recovery.
Okay.
Joe Polish.
I
Yeah.
helped a little bit on the optimization on that website, so it was pretty
Nice.
good.
So good. I love it.
Yeah.
Small
So, you
world.
know, with Tony, you know, I felt like I needed to give back, because Tony helped me get into this, you know, this marketing world, and introduced me to a lot of people. And, you know, 20 years later, here I am helping him, you know, get his book out there. And it's after 2 years now, his book is now, I think, number 15 or number 18 of the best copywriting books out there.
That's awesome. So good.
And so it was nice to be able to give back, and to help another person get their book out there and be successful with that book.
Yeah. Yes, that is one of my favorite things to do, is to turn someone into an author.
Yeah.
Whether they write the book or I help them find a ghostwriter or a book doctor, you know, content editor, whatever that looks like, putting the whole team together and going from our first conversation where I say, okay, what do you want the book to do? What's in it for you? What's the reader going to do? What do you want the reader to do? To getting their first proof in the mail and going through it. And then I have a series of things that I do when someone becomes an author, right? I'll send them flowers and a gift. And
Wow.
if I can, I have a cake made with the book cover on it, depending on where they are. And right, it's a big deal to become an author. It's a super fun thing.
Yeah. I mean, I every time I get a new proof in the mail, it's like I still get that same feeling I did with
Yes.
the first book. And it was just,
Yes.
you know, that proud moment that
Yes.
baby just launched, and it was like,
That's right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Someone said, what's your favorite book, or who's your favorite author that you've worked with? And I said that it's legitimately like asking me who my favorite kid would be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I learned something with every book.
People on social media, they'll say, well, what's your favorite business book? And I'll say mine. And they're like, what? You can't say yours.
Yes, you
Like,
can. You
yes.
can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can say that because it's the one that you're most deeply connected to, of course. But I don't have a favorite book. I will have a favorite book in a particular vertical.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are more wonderful to work with than others, but I haven't ever worked with anyone that it wasn't, I mean, at the end, it's like having a baby, except you get to sleep and make money. So it's totally different from having a baby.
Yeah, you know,
And that the person that we've worked with, right, then becomes an author. And I'm like, listen, being an author is being one of the cool kids. Like, there's Olympic champions, and then there are authors.
and the funny thing
Perception
is,
in reality, and you can't just become an Olympic champion, but you can become an author.
you know, when I had my cleaning business here in Lancaster, PA, everybody knew me. I had the cleaning business for 20 years.
Mm.
And when I sold the business and devoted more time to writing and coaching, you know, nobody knows me anymore. I became anonymous in my own town. But when I travel, people will recognize me in airports and they'll recognize me here. I'm
I
like,
love that.
you know, just go away.
Yes.
You know,
Yes. My mantra is always rich, not famous.
you know, so
And no one ever recognizes me. I never have that. So that's awesome. Unless I'm at a writer's conference, right? Or I went to a book launch last night, actually, for someone here in Nashville. And someone said, why do I know you? And I'm like, I actually don't know. I have no idea. It wasn't me.
that's funny. So how did you manage to get involved with the TEDx talk? I know a lot of people ask me and they'll say, hey, Rob, do you want to do it? And I'm like, no, I have no.
You do want to do it.
I do want to do it.
You do want to do it. Having a TEDx talk is actually
doing the
very
Jedi
cool.
thing going, you do want to do it.
You do want to do it. Become an author. I actually had a client. I had a business coaching client who decided to put on a TEDx event, and I got invited. I didn't realize, being a paid speaker, that if you have a TED or a TEDx talk, you need a speaker reel. People just watch your TEDx talk and they go, oh, you're a TEDx speaker? Then we will hire you.
Yeah.
So it removed all barriers to entry. And if someone ever wants me to come and speak, this is my cat Frappuccino. She's decided, since I'm wearing black, she needs to cover me in fur.
All of our cats are upstairs.
Yes. So now it's in my signature on my email. Someone will say, I would like to hire you.
Oh, and it was a good video too.
Thank you.
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you. It was a pure blessing. It's a pure blessing. Now I think you have to apply, and there's all sorts of hoops that you have to jump through. So if someone is legitimately handing you a TED or a TEDx on a platter, please do it.
Yeah.
And have a good time with it. I had a great time. Putting mine together and doing it's one of those days. A girlfriend of mine was a stylist, and she came over and we put together what I was going to wear. It was just, I'm sure you'd have the same thing.
Yeah, I got to get a stylist.
I'm sure you'd have hair and makeup for the event.
Maybe.
But it was just it was a wonderful blessing, without question.
So how do people find you? Where do they go? Do they go to Facebook? Do you have a website? I
have a website. I'm honoreecorder.com. Most people find me by referral. One of my clients said, you are the Hitch of publishing. Someone comes to me and they want, the movie Hitch with Will Smith. Yeah, they say if someone is serious about doing a book, I write your name on a piece of paper and I slide it across the table and say, this is the person you need to work with. If you're not serious, don't call. But if you are serious, then this is your person. And that's really how people find me, or doing fun podcast interviews like this. Sometimes they're in an audience where I speak. Yeah.
I've definitely raised my prices to help clients with their books over the years. And recently someone had referred me to a client. They called me up and, I really want my book. I really want to get it out there. And I said, okay, this is what I charge. And they ghosted me for, I'm like,
I don't want it that bad.
Nah.
Well, because there are less expensive services, right? And then there are more expensive services where you're a number. And I think what you and I do is I treat every client's book as though it is my book, and I go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And in my last read of the book, I was explaining this to a client, and she said, I can't believe you worked all these hours. And I said, well, my last read of the book is I take the book and I read it out loud. I read every single thing out loud so that I can catch all the last little things that may be wrong with the book.
Yeah, I think the average person doesn't understand the hours that have to go in.
No.
you got the writing, you got the transcribing, you got the book covers, you got, you know,
Yes.
the research of the title and the ISBN and
Edit reviewing,
right, and then
marks
formatting it into
reviewing,
Kindle, and
formatting.
because
Yes.
now Amazon changed the rules again, they have a whole new system of, they don't want you to upload EPUBs anymore, and
Right. Right. You have to have special just for them. And the list is
yeah,
my production checklist is about 15 pages.
yeah, you know,
What of
and
each thing that has to be done for a book, and it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it, but it does take takes a lot of technical skill, and it takes a lot of experience and education, and also then it takes time, and so you have to love it.
yeah, and you know,
Yeah.
I looked at all the hours that we put into one of our clients' books, and you know, between myself and my team, I think there was close to 1,000 hours. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
we're not making any money, you know, the prices again.
Yes. Yes.
But
Raise
you
your
know,
prices.
then there are some services out there that are charging 100,000 hours to write a book or more, and so my prices are, you know, a lot cheaper than that. But
That's right.
you know, they could be higher.
They could be higher, and you'd get it. You'd
Yeah,
get it. The right person would
it,
pay
you
it.
know, eventually.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure I'm ready for that type of commitment at the moment because most of my books are thinner, easier to digest.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
I think I need to get to that level where I'm not having to deal with, you know, any of my other clients to do their social media, SEO, or anything else
Sure.
like that,
Sure.
and just focus on, you know, their book, because
Yeah.
it does, it takes time, and it's and then as soon as you're done, it's like that dopamine has gone away, and you're like, all right, I need something else to do.
Well, but then the fun begins, right? I have You Must Write a Book, and then I have a course, and I start the course with, there are two phases of marketing. Marketing phase one begins the day you decide that you're going to write a book.
Mhm.
And it ends about 30 to 45 days after you've launched the book, right? When that dopamine rush wears off,
Mhm.
and it's not the new release on Kindle anymore, right? It's like you've got to downshift into marketing phase two. And I say
Yeah.
marketing phase two ends when marketing phase one, or begins when marketing phase one ends, and marketing phase two ends when you die. Like there's only two phases of marketing,
Yeah, and
and the
I'm
second one
constantly
never
pushing my
ends.
books.
You actually never know when it ends because you're not here anymore. So as long as you understand that this is the long tail thing that you're going to do, that you're never going to be finished,
Yeah,
you're always going to market your book, right?
yeah.
And then
Once an author, always an author.
that's
You're
right.
always,
Once an author, always an author. You always got to be marketing your book. Always, always, always be marketing. And so they get a kick out of it. And then and I'm like, and then there's one more piece of news. The best way to market a book is to write another book. So don't shoot the messenger, but here's,
yeah,
here's some sage wisdom from someone who's gone before you.
yeah.
And
And
I
you
love
know,
that
people come up to me and they're like, "When's your next book coming out?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I just got the last one out.
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm sure people do this to you, and they do it to me. They'll say, you should write a book about this.
Yeah.
I'm like, did you just give me a book to write? Like, do you have
Mhm.
any idea? It's like saying to someone with 9 children, you should just have another child.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and just pop that
Yeah.
out.
Or the flip side. I mean, I have 6 kids, 3 girls,
Oh, yeah.
3 boys.
Oh,
I
okay. So
have,
you just have another.
yeah. And so that was the
Yeah.
thing, you know, you have how many kids? You know, and now it's like you wrote how many books? Really? You know, and you know, it's like they're saying that sarcastically, like, you know, Rob could never write a book in his life, but you know, he's telling me I wrote 25 of them.
That's okay. You and I probably have the same reaction. That sounds like when I reach out to people that I went to high school with, they're like, "Yeah, we didn't see this coming, Honoree.
Yeah,
That wasn't the award we gave you.
yeah, it's
Most likely to do this.
yeah,
That was not you. It's
yeah,
fine."
you know, and you know, it's but you know, that was a lifetime ago. So,
It
you
was.
know, I have all these experiences being an entrepreneur. And so I want to be able to share those experiences with others. And if it's in a book form, it's in a video, or it's, you know,
Yeah.
and the thing is that, and we didn't really touch on this, but every book that I put out there becomes that legacy for the next generation to learn about me, to learn about,
Yeah.
society now, you know.
Yes.
And the book I wrote a couple years ago, which was No Experience Necessary, which was all about social media for the boomers, Gen Xers, and
Mm-hmm.
over 50 entrepreneur. I actually wrote that when I was 47, so I couldn't read it until I turned 50.
Right. Yes.
Um,
Understood.
but it was teaching
I'll
people.
wait. I've got to wait like 6 more months.
Okay. But it was all about teaching people how to use social media to get your legacy moving. So it was a good book.
I
So
love it.
anyway, we're running out of time, and I want everybody to go to Honoree's website, to her Facebook, to learn more about her. And if whether or not you use me or Honoree, just get your book out there. Get your
Yes,
story
please.
out there.
Yes. Yes, please. It is so wonderful to be an author. Signing books is wonderful. Helping people is wonderful. Being an author means you're going to be one of the cool kids, so you can hang out with us.
Although I'm not cool yet. Still waiting.
It's really one of the best things that I ever did was take that advice to write my book and publish my book. And so there's no reason why you can't.
And this is why Honoree is an e-hero. And so I'll see you guys on the next episode.